Approximately 5,000 people in the U.S. die each year waiting for a donor kidney. A new study found that 3,500 donated kidneys considered of lower quality are discarded every year. So that raises the question, are we too quick to get rid of kidneys that could still save lives? Joining us today in our audience is urology professor and the director of the UCLA Kidney Transplant Exchange Program, Dr. Jeffrey Veal. Doc, thanks again for being here.
Welcome back. Always a pleasure.
You're such an advocate, and we've had you on the show before to talk about this. Why are so many kidneys discarded in the U.S.?
I think one reason might be that Americans tend to be more obese than other countries. And with obesity, you get vascular disease, you get atherosclerosis, you get plaque. And what might happen is that when the recovering surgeons, say there was people that unfortunately die in a motor vehicle accident or of a stroke, when they're taking the kidneys or removing the kidneys out of someone that died, they might see that the arteries in the kidney are blocked by plaque, more so in America than in other countries where people are a little more slim, and the surgeons that are recovering the organs in those other countries might see that the arteries are clean and more appropriate to be transplanted into someone. You know, I think there was some sensationalized to this article or to this story. I'm kind of disappointed it got so much coverage because a lot of these organs have been maybe damaged during the motor vehicle accident, or when they do a biopsy, there's scar tissue in them. And this article originated from France. The lead authors were all French doctors, and I think they kind of puffed out their chest a bit and said, look, in France, they only discard 10% of organs, or in the United States, you discard 17% of organs. But really, they left out the fact that in the United States, it is one of the highest organ donation rates in all the world.
Which is good for this country.
Which is a very good thing.
And we can make it higher.
Thanks to American generosity, we had a record year in kidney transplantation last year. 20,000 people got transplanted. That's living donors donating to strangers. That's deceased donors whose family were kind enough to donate. And that was left out of that article. And I think there was some sensationalization to this article and why it kind of took off.
Well, clearly that skewed the numbers, didn't it? Because they're just not doing as many.
Right.
I think, though, it's important to raise a point, and I'm not trying to sensationalize this, but I also think that some of the centers are a little less willing to perform higher risk transplants because that also artificially might raise their fail rate. And that's how they maintain their accreditation, correct, in terms of remaining transplant centers?
Yeah, definitely. There is, in the United States, we're held at a very high bar. The transplant centers are regulated that if you don't meet a certain standard based on patient survival and the function of the transplant at 1 and 3 years, then your program can be placed on hold or shut down. Where in Europe and other countries, they're not held to that same high a bar. So if there's a center in the United States that gets offered a marginal kidney, they might be reluctant to accept it because they know in 3 years it might not be functioning as well, and their center might get kind of penalized for that.